turned off the game audio. We're gonna listen. We're gonna listen to Mr. Smexy Man in the suit. Yes. Okay, let's go.
Do you guys know what Mischief Night is?
I
mean, I've heard of it, but we don't have it.
Maybe we should talk about that.
No, but I recently had an issue where someone was challenging me. I thought it was a national thing.
No, nobody has a clue what I'm talking about.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta imagine Hawaii has no.
Is it the night before Halloween, or
Yeah.
is it?
Yes.
What is it? You throw eggs and shit?
Yeah. But it's
We have that.
First of all, you don't throw eggs
this
and
just
shit.
what
You
the-
throw eggs and you
light
light
shit on fire.
fire. If you-
We need to be saving this for yeah.
That just is Halloween for of the right age in Connecticut.
I'm joined now by Senator Schott, Senator Murphy, and Senator Booker. Thank you guys all for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Thanks for.
Okay, so we got what? Who? Who? Senator not Senator Murphy? Who?
Of the right age in Connecticut.
I'm joined now by Senator Schott, Senator Murphy, and Senator Booker. Thank you guys all for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having
Senator
us.
Schott,
Thanks for
Senator
being here.
Murphy, and Senator
So I
Walter.
want to start off with kind of the most pressing issue that we're contending with right now, and that is the impending prospect of a constitutional crisis. And we've seen more and more how right-wing media very quickly has warmed up to the idea of seeing rulings that they don't like. And as we can see, obviously the executive branch is
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they
the
would
judicial
never
branch is really
understand.
the last bulwark right now that we have to stop against his worst excesses. Now you have folks in right-wing media and in the legislative branch on the right as well saying, well, you know what, if a ruling here doesn't kind of comport with our political ideology, then really we have the prerogative to just ignore it. So
Yeah, that's the thought that I'm getting at right now. Here's the thing. Okay, is my microphone actually working this time? Because yesterday my microphone was like off for like 30 minutes when I was reacting to a video yesterday until somebody said something. But yeah, I mean, some of the what's it called? One of the judges that Donald Trump has hired said, "F off, man. What you're doing is illegal. It is unconstitutional. It is completely illegal." So that, like, the judicial branch is like the number one thing that that is stopping the Trump administration from doing too many bad things. I mean, remember what happened with USAID? Yeah, that was completely and utterly illegal. Like, literally, that was completely and utterly ridiculously illegal to begin with in the first place. But people don't even realize that in the background that these judges are doing this are doing this shit to prevent Trump from doing some crazy ass things. I don't even think Asmongold is even aware that, you know, a lot of this stuff is illegal to begin with in the first place. I mean, let's be for real. People with like Asmongold and Nuxtaku, they're not fully immersed of what the heck is going on, because why would they need to? Why would they need to? They're gamers, right? They're gamers, and the right-wing media and right-wing influencers are sending these two individuals videos that promote right-wing ideology to people who really don't immerse themselves into what the logistics are going on behind closed doors. Now, that is not to say that they don't have some ideas to what the heck is going on, but they don't have the time to go and do background research as to why the things are happening the way they are right now, or why the things that they are happening the way they are right now. Because they're too busy, you know, planning for either like the next live stream or the next event or the next gaming event or a trip with like Amiru and Tectone or like anybody else out in the world. And Dux Taku, well, why does he have to care? He lives in freaking Canada. Let's be for real here. He lives in freaking Canada. So basically his input to all of this is kind of irrelevant, although it's nice to have his insight, but his viewpoint is completely irrelevant because he lives in Canada. But the thing is that even though he lives in Canada, he has to have his input. Because I think he did live in America at one point. And so did Mudahar from Some Ordinary Gamers. I think they did live in America. So they kind of have they do have a right to speak out on a lot of the issues, but they don't have basically all the wherewithal and the immersion that is needed to be inserting themselves into some of these political arguments. Okay? Dux Taku is dealing with his Canadian thing up there in the north. Some Ordinary Gamers is dealing with like technology and what goes on in the dark web and stuff like that. And he's too busy with that to care about the whole like political spectrum that's going on and the legal system within the United States of what's going on to care about LGBT rights and all these like problems that's going on within the government of the United States of America to give a full, accurate opinion as to what's going on. And the same thing with Asmongold, okay? Same thing with Asmongold. He is not a representation of the... And I think Pirate Software actually mentioned this. Pirate Software, and I'm going to say this again in another video because I recorded another video because I was speaking over it. But Pirate Software put it up, said this, that a lot of the gaming companies fear him, right? That he is a consumer of gaming hardware, software, and games in general, right? And that's all that Asmongold is immersed himself. He's too much of an idiot of the political side of things because his mind is so focused on the gaming industry and the anime industry to some extent. And he just doesn't really care about all that shenanigans that's going out there. He really doesn't. Okay, people send him the clips, and he said, and Asmongold has said this before multiple times. I'll probably mention this in the other video that I'm going to end up putting out. He said this multiple times, and I did hear him say in one of his streams about 3 months ago that he said that these people send him these clips of right-wing ideology to get him to react to it, right? And he's slowly being influenced by all of this, but he knows. I know he knows. I know he believes that there's like propaganda from the left wing, but they're not showing up. So he has every right to believe that whatever the right wing is saying is absolutely true, which is not really absolutely true. It's a complete fucking lie. But social media is essentially pushing down people who are like me, who know what the frick is going on. Okay, like some other freaks in the same spectrum. Okay, who know what the frick is going on, but it's like their voices are not being heard. A, because they're being bought out by these Republican individuals and influencers with money, and newscasters. The people who are presenting the news to the public, they know what's wrong, but their bosses tell them, don't do this because Donald Trump paid us to do this, say this. Or proponents of Donald Trump or Elon Musk paid us to say this. So you take this script, you take this line, you say this, blah, 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 blah. That's basically what legacy media is. Legacy media is a sellout completely. Let's be real here, people. The last line of defense against like stupidity within legacy media was, I think it was the Wall Street Journal, if I remember correctly. But the Wall Street Journal finally broke down a number of years ago and started falling into this, sellout kind of mentality. First it was CNN that fell through. CNN was actually the first, true newscast that sold out to the public. Then it was the New York Times that happened a couple of years later, and then followed the Wall Street Journal. So even printed media has fallen victim, and you could argue that people of independent media, like say Tyler Cohen, Shoe on Head, Robert Reich, Lincoln Project, they're all trying to push out the other side of the spectrum of what's really going on. But you don't hear those people really much. Okay, you really don't hear those people really much. And for some odd reason, all this executive orders that are happening is so overwhelming. People don't even have time to breathe and react. Okay, it's a war tactic. It's literally a war tactic that they're putting on right now. Oh, 10,000 different executive orders, but that's just a distraction for the underlying reason why they're doing 10,000 executive orders. But it's kind of crazy. It really is kind of crazy.
Crisis continues to bear down. I guess what's your message to?
And the thing is that they're trying to destroy the legitimacy of the United States Constitution. That's all that this is. That's all this is. And there's a YouTuber out there that's called, what's his name? Anti-Prophet. Yeah, his name is Anti-Prophet. And he basically said that maybe it's time that we forego the Constitution. Now, he basically said, what Donald Trump is doing right now is BS. It's stupid. It's arrogant. It is completely, out of touch of reality. But we got to think about to ourselves, is the Constitution really going to hold its weight on American culture after about 200 some odd years? I don't think the Constitution was even built to last that long. Okay? I think the Constitution is finally going to have to break down at some point. And we have to actually end up thinking of a new way, a new societal structure, in order to continue on, the American dream, the American way, the American unification. That's the thing that I'm getting. Yeah, the Constitution is literally dying. Okay, it's going to die at some point, because its relevance to current times is not supported. It just doesn't really happen. And there was a point in time, I guess it was in 1997 or 98, where there's a multitude of amendments that were passed within legislation that, looking back on it now, was thinking, now that I'm thinking about it, it's well, if they're because this was a debate back then, long time ago, that there was going to be a point in time where the Constitution was going to be threatened. This was before Tyler Cohen can even understand about the what was going on with the Constitution, because there was a point, there was 1 year where a shit ton of amendments were passed within the Constitution, so that they can keep up with the times. And I do think that the Constitution is going to die. Absolutely. So we need to at some point think of a different advancement to our culture, a different type of Constitution, maintaining some of the ideas that our forefathers came up with, but making sure that it supports current times. That's all I'm saying.
Folks out there who are seeing just 3 weeks in that we may be on the brink of a major problem in our democracy?
Just not to give up, not to concede that that's where we're inevitably going to end up. I do think there's a real chance that in 6 months that Trump consolidates power in a way that is more similar to autocrats in Belarus or Turkey or elsewhere. But it is not a foregone conclusion. And so it is not brave, it is not strategically sound, it is not tactically wise for us to concede as though that has already happened. What has happened over the last couple of weeks actually is that federal courts have ruled that what Trump is doing is illegal, and for the most part the Department of Justice has instructed their departments to comply with the orders. Will that stand? Will they never defy an order? Will they never precipitate a constitutional crisis? I don't know the answer to that, but I do not think we want to speak that into existence yet, because the judicial branch has stood up as a bulwark against this unlawful activity. And look, there's lots to be worried about, but I don't like to be on an anticipatory basis worried about what happens if this, what happens if that. Like we are in the middle of a fight right now. We've had actually some success in federal courts, and we need to build on that success.
I think that's right, but it is probably worth pointing out that what he has already done, that the courts have not stopped, is pretty dire, right? I mean, we sort of breezed right past the January 6th pardons in this country because I guess the idea that he was going to do that had already been normalized. But that's absolutely extraordinary. That's never happened in the history of this country, to have people who have engaged in brutal acts of violence in service of...
And about a couple of days later, though, those people came up to the judicial branch and said, "Let us back in jail! Let us back in jail!" Yeah, literally a couple days, within 1 week. Within 1 week. The people were like, "Nah, dude, we're going back to jail."
The president's political agenda be given immunization for that.
Against cops.
Against cops, right? I mean, brutally beating cops, tasering them, beating over the head with metal poles. That happened. The courts cannot overturn that. And it has real consequences for our democracy. And that stands in a list of things that he has done and already gotten away with that pose an existing danger to our set of democratic norms. So I agree with Brian. So far the courts have done their job. That might not hold, but there's also a series of things that Trump has done that signals we're in for a really rocky road, and that people have to be ready to raise their voice at really loud, perhaps unprecedented levels.
Let me reframe the question a little bit then, because there are folks. I get that we don't want to give in and do anticipatory fear for what hasn't even happened yet, given the fact that there's already so much shit that's happened that is worthy of focusing on. But I guess to give a little bit of relief to folks who are watching this all play out, is there a plan then in the event that some of the worst of what he could do does play itself out?
I worry a little bit about this. Is there a plan? Politics in a campaign or in a legislative context, or if you play chess or you play poker, you cannot come in and say, if he does this, I'm going to do this. If he does this, I'm going to... We have to actually be responsive. And because they're in charge of the government, we cannot map out our strategy for the next 3 months. We are working strategically, but that's different from being able to articulate, here's what we're going to do on March 14th, here's what we're going to do on March 22nd.
That's not actually how this works.
We have a strategy, and Corey has talked about it a lot, but it's basically where we can use legislative leverage, we will do so. Where we can significantly slow down the process, we will do so. But really, to me, in addition to the court battles, what we need to help to do is build a citizen movement. Any movement that has successfully fought autocracy has had the moral high ground and the political high ground of not 500 people at an office or 300 people at a town hall, but hundreds of thousands of people peacefully in the streets standing up for American democracy. So to me, our collective goal is to build that citizen movement. We have a role to play in exercising power where we have it, but the only way you beat autocracy is with people power.
Yeah, look, I'm going to say a couple things. One is, first of all,
That is absolutely true. People power is a thing. But the way I see it right now is that there is this overwhelming thought process of victimhood. There is. The victim mentality level is way worse now than it was 10 years ago. It really is. It's way worse now. Okay, you take a look at the streets of California. You take a look, even in Texas. Even in Texas, it's got like a bit of a homeless problem issue. And it's also got like an issue with high gas prices and housing issue. New York's also got a homelessness issue. I'm not entirely sure about what the heck is going on in Florida with their Florida and Georgia when it comes to elderly housing or whatnot, especially here in Texas too. It's got a problem with elderly housing too. So I mean, we got Jesus. It's a mess. It's
Three of us have been at this a long time. Trump won. We would meet. We would discuss what are the options and levers that we have to pull, and inevitably you've said them. There's the sort of the legislative levers that we have, the procedural levers that we have. We have been meeting with and working with Democratic attorney generals and the lawsuits that they're filing. But the biggest power that we have that worked in Trump 1 to stop the healthcare efforts to pull away healthcare from millions of Americans, to even now, we've seen that the throwback pitch of this last most important power, it worked when they tried to cut all federal funding. And really that is the collective voices that we all have to rise out up and shout it out. And for me, you know, here we are, it's February, it's Black History. In some of the worst, most atrocious moments of governmental power of the past, where authoritarianism in its worst formats, I've been talking a lot about the Hayes-Tilden Compromise, the election of 1876, the outcome, which was basically Tilden won the popular vote, Hayes won the Electoral College, and the bargain was, okay, the Republicans can have the presidency, but Reconstruction is over in the South, pull out federal troops, which led to the worst, one of the worst periods of terrorism literally in our country's history, where black elected officials were being dragged out in the streets, beaten, lynching spiked up, Klan ruling. It was a horrific time, but yet these citizen activists like Ida B. Wells started coming up and saying, we will not let this go. She used to talk about shining the light of truth into the darkness. And what she was able to do was to galvanize a nation against lynching and against a lot of the other atrocities that were going on by exposing them and ultimately planting the seeds that allowed sort of future movements to happen. So I know we're not there and we're not seeing that level of violence, but yet at the same time, that kind of resistance, that kind of truth-telling, that kind of never say die, I'm going to stand up for the most vaunted principles of our country relentlessly, actually is power. And to me, that's what we need right now. I know I sit in meetings with these guys and others about trying to tactically, all the things we can do here. I'm happy about what's going on in the courts, but your voice, our collective voices matter and can make a difference.
Can I just put a fine point on this? The reason that we're talking about public action, right, is because there actually isn't a built-in solution in the system if the president decides to violate an order of the court.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, there isn't. If you think about it, there. I guess it's like people believe or assume that there are going to be people that everybody has a level of empathy, right? But Donald Trump doesn't have any level of empathy. The empathy is not there for Donald Trump. And there is no system that we have right now that can control somebody with zero empathy. All we have right now is a system that allows the assumption that a person has a level of empathy, therefore they're going to enact an act in accordance to the American public's outcries. But that's just an assumption. It's not set in stone. It's not written. So Donald Trump is going all willy-nilly all over the freaking United States public, and it's like there's nothing that could stop him, because it was assumed that he would show remorse and he had empathy, but he doesn't.
Because the Supreme Court doesn't have an army at its disposal. The Congress doesn't have police to go out and execute a court order. So the Constitution doesn't really have an answer for what happens if a president says, you know what, I don't agree with that court order, I'm doing whatever the hell I want. But Brian is right. It's happened before. It's happened in many countries, in many democracies around the world, and it's the people that ultimately put enough pressure on the system nonviolently to be able to restore that order. That doesn't mean that we don't have an obligation to protest, to lead, to make their life as hard as possible. But ultimately, it's a cooperative relationship between people like us that are in positions of power and the people who ultimately are the ones that can provide that check that is not really built into the Constitution in the case that the executive just says, forget it, I'm not paying attention to the courts.
Well, look, you guys are some of the most effective messengers that we have in the Senate, and I do like to focus on the issue of media. That's the space that I work in. Is there any worry that as we see the way that Republicans have consolidated support among the folks who own media platforms, how they've really been able to entrench themselves as, influencers, content creators on the right, that the deck is so stacked against Democrats by virtue of the Elons of the world, the Zuckerbergs of the world, the Shoes of the world, who are content to heap money into Trump's pockets, content to align themselves with the right, that it is an insurmountable battle to be able to message people when really the folks who are in charge of the algorithms are stacked against us.
Right now they have a better right-wing ecosystem than we have. They're getting tens of millions of more views of right-wing content, and that's a disadvantage.
That is absolutely true. That is absolutely true. Okay, I could name a bunch of right-wing YouTubers right now. Okay, and it's especially right-wing trans YouTubers. Surprise, there's actually right-wing trans YouTubers. So, you got people who are just like regular people, who are just, kind of like amplifying the voices when they don't really have any kind of thing, for them. So, you basically have, people like, Asmongold. You have people like Leaflet. You have people like Amala Ekanamobi. You have Blair White, you have Brett Cooper, you have the Daily Wire, you have who else is there? Like literally who else is there? Blair White is the trans right person. Blair White is the trans right person. Okay, she is, but she ended up selling out to. I guess she ended up selling out to the right because she knows that she's afraid of the, I guess, hate brigade that would end up coming after her and harassing her. So, yeah, she basically sold out. She sold out to her community, and I see that. I literally see that she sold out. Who else? We got Brett Cooper, we got the Daily Wire, we got Asmongold, we got Leaflet. Who else do we have that's like kind of like right leaning? That are pushing like the propaganda out there, and then meanwhile, we don't have anybody really in the trans community that are left-leaning, except maybe I can think of a couple of YouTubers right now, and one YouTuber, her name, the YouTuber that I'm thinking of is Samantha Lux. Two other VTubers called Yara VT and Yuko EX. they are the trans YouTubers out there. I mean, sorry, VTuber, Twitch streamers, and YouTubers. You also have, people like me who's also part of the thing, but I'm not like that far extreme like some people are making it out for me to be. Um, but you have like regular citizens who are just like doing their own thing. Oh geez. There's a streamer slash YouTuber that I'm subscribed to, and her channel is so low. Her channel is surprisingly low on its viewer count because Mayaville. She changed her name a few times, but Mayaville is such a long streamer. She's been on this platform for like the longest of times, and yet because of what's been happening in the politics and the sort of the whole hate brigade, she doesn't really have that many views or supporters or anything of that nature, which is kind of disappointing considering the fact that she's been in here for like what, 4 years. And she hasn't even been partnered with Twitch. She hasn't been partnered with Twitch. Her view count is on YouTube is not really all that high either. I don't know if it's the way that she promotes herself. I don't know if it's because of her being trans. All I know is that I've actually exposed myself as being part of the LGBT community. I've said that multiple times before. And even then, I feel like there's a sense of me being pressured down into like the downtrodden of like people who are not important because, well, yes, okay, of course I said like my piece and got a little controversial and a little bit heated and a little bit, not a little bit. I've gone off the rails. Let's just put it that way. I've gone off the rails. I've melted down. Okay, so I'm just desperately, trying to find, some piece of justification of living on this world. You know what I'm saying? And to some extent, I do believe that a person like Leaflet has actually said something that kind of resonated with me. That she said that people are just trying to find purpose. Okay, people are just trying to find purpose. And with me, it's like there's so much things stacked up against me right now that it feels like I don't have a purpose. You know what I'm saying? They have like these social problems, they have like these emotional issues, they have problems, mentally and socially that people just don't want to end up helping them because it's too much. I'm over here in this space because I want to truly try to be the catalyst that fuses people together, and I know that sounds cringe. Okay, that sounds cringe. But I really honestly don't know how to say it in another way that can resonate with everybody and bring everybody freaking together. And I know to some extent it's like that my voice is not really necessarily being heard either. Because YouTube is being owned by Amazon. Okay, YouTube is owned by Amazon. And I know that, Amazon is owned by, jeez. What's his name? Oh, jeez. I forgot who the Amazon CEO is. But he was literally right there within the inauguration, within the seats, behind Donald J. Trump. It wasn't normal human individuals. It was just a bunch of, like, rich people there that were right there. So, right off the rip, you can tell that they don't want to have to deal with people in my position. And it's not just the CEO of Amazon. It's also because the advertisers as well. Right? Because they're pulling out this whole, we support the woke agenda kind of thing. because of what they heard in social media. But you got to understand one thing. Social media is the reason why all these people are being exposed, right? That's the thing. But you also got to take into consideration where the social media was from, right? Remember the whole TikTok ban? And then the what is it called? Trump's people decided to bring it back? That was the thing. TikTok was supposed to be gone. TikTok was supposed to be banned. But Donald Trump brought it back. You want to know why? You want to know why? Because he wants to promote his propaganda to a younger audience. That's why TikTok is there. Because usually TikTok is like geared to like a Cocomelon audience, right? They're trying to pull off the Cocomelon move to the younger audience. Now, I do know that there's other facets to TikTok. I get that. But the Republicans are pushing a right-wing ideology onto the younger individuals. It's the same thing that they're doing in China. Exactly the same thing that they're doing in China. They have even to the education system, down to the education system, promoting Chinese propaganda. From social media to like elementary schools and other stuff, pushing for ideological propaganda that doesn't make any sense, but to turn people into loyalists for Xi Jinping and forego human rights altogether. That's exactly what's going on with the United States government right now with Donald Trump. He's trying to turn what he learned about China and how to control people and doing the exact same thing. He's already doing it. He's already done it. And that's like the freaking disappointing part is the already established YouTubers. Let me put it this. Already established YouTubers like Brian Cohen, like Shoe on Head, like Robert Reich, like the Lincoln Project. They are already they're already here, right? So they're here to stay, and they're trying to push out stupid things that's happening within the Donald Trump administration. But even with established YouTubers, they haven't gone to the point where they're teaching kids that what's going on is wrong. Okay? That a lot of this stuff that we have right now is basically for people that are high school age and older. There's nothing really there for underage kids. There really isn't. Right? Anything, anywhere from elementary schools all the way up to like the end of junior high. There's nothing there for them. And Donald Trump is trying to promote, trying to get rid of the school system, right? He's trying to get rid of the school system, teach kids about different propaganda techniques. The exact same thing that China's doing right now. The exact same thing China's doing with their education system. Promote that Donald Trump is the greatest. You should obey Donald Trump, and we're all good, right? With that in mind, the Republicans now have. And the conservatives, even the stupidity of Donald Trump, now with RFK Jr., is now going after gamers, is now going after now they're going after VTubers. Okay? As 5 years ago, the right-wing propaganda didn't happen with VTubers, but slowly but surely, I'm starting to notice it with VTubers. Smugalana was one of the people who possibly got infiltrated within her chat to watch a video about Nyara VT and like posting like all these videos. Somebody in Smugalana's chat actually works for Donald J. Trump. I don't know who it was that said, okay, this is the thing, we gotta push this out, blah 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 blah. Somebody I don't know if it was a MAGA member, some idiot from the random crowd, or a official of Donald Trump's cabinet, or his loyalist members in the government. But they gave Smugglana that video or those tweets about Yara VT, showing that Yara VT is actually an unhinged individual, right? And pointing out at her as a bad individual, which to be fair, I've seen Yara VT. I've seen Yara VT, and I'm questioning her mental state. I literally am, and it's because of that reaction that Smugglana actually put out, and now further delegitimizes the trans community even further, and that's kind of disappointing. Okay, and people like me who are trying to say, oh, you know what, this is freaking wrong, because YouTube is owned by Amazon, and Amazon is actually one of the people who is like a right-wing supporter. They're suppressing people like me, and it's not a promotional. It's not a promotional thing. It's a company-wide thing, and I can tell because Mayaville is also part of the same thing. She's a Twitch streamer and a YouTuber, came out as a trans individual, but she's not promoted. She's been doing this for like 4 years now, and she barely got any views. Because I guarantee you that she probably ends up not following the rhetoric of the right wingers as it is right now. I know, but this is the whole just chatting thing. We're just reacting. Oh gosh, I lost my train of thought. Let's just keep going.
Advantage. I know this because I watch utter lies become almost accepted truths by the mainstream, like this idea that millions of condoms were sent to
Gaza.
Gaza. I mean, that is an utter factual lie. But I bump into people who have seen it 60 times on their feed, on their scroll. That's what we're fighting against. And so that's my worry, is that people don't understand that this ecosystem of truth, or the ecosystem of facts, or the ecosystem that is progressive, it right now has to rise up. It has to form. People have to be understanding that they play a role as a citizen truth teller to be engaged in this space, because if not, we're going to continue to lose out to these folks. And the last thing I'll say is, Elon Musk controls X. Yes, there are bot farms in Russia focused on, we're up against all of that, but that still doesn't mean that we're powerless. And that's why you're sitting here, and that's why you create the content you create. It's why I spend so much time digitally, not just for myself on my own platforms, but trying to work with the rest of my caucus to lean into what is 21st century communications.
Let's talk about that asymmetry, because
that's also that's also a thing that I'm trying to do myself. Is like, there's another side to everything, and for me, I'm observing, like VTubers and YouTubers in general, like Asmongold and even Leaflet. I know I'm gonna be saying their names like constantly because they're also falling into the trap, because they're targeting a young audience, right? They're targeting a young audience, but there is no push from there is no push from people like YukoEX. There is no push for people like Mayaville. There is no push for people like me, right? Except for people who already established themselves in the YouTube algorithm, like the guy to your right over here, and Bernie Sanders and Shoe on Head, right? They've already been established, but they are people who are not who are in my position, who are not really totally established, but are trying to pull out the truth spars and stuff like that to make sure that these right-wing individuals don't have a voice. But like I said before, Amazon being owned by a right-wing supporter, I could make an argument that Twitch is on the left-leaning side. I get that, but it's the way that promoting left-wing ideology is not necessarily a moralistic standing. It's more like an emotional standing, which is not really a good thing. It really isn't a good thing. And people on the right are capitalizing on that flaw, right? You saw that video not too long ago about those the congressman hearing, right? With all these like LGBT members who sat in front of the courts or the legislator of that state. And they were in blue hair, they were in weird dresses, they were in drag, and stuff like that. The right wing is putting out that media, making the LGBT look terrible, but it's not really what's going on in the LGBT community. And I know I've actually made fun of and downright insulted another YouTuber who's in the trans community, Samantha Lux. She's on YouTube. You can probably go after her. I know I've roasted her a lot, but even her voice is not really fully trustworthy enough, because it is going to fall into the line where the right is going to exploit that, what she says, spin it around, and turn it into a narrative that turns the LGBT community not only amongst themselves, but turn the general public of the United States against the LGBT people, especially trans people. Would I actually, change platforms or something like that, or go to other platforms that make myself heard? I don't think that's even possible. Because the other platforms are, at least in my opinion, are the way I see it. The way I see it is that it caters to a really strange mindset. Meaning like conspiracy theorists, like people who believe that there's a flat earth, people who believe that the chupacabra actually exists, people who think that Elvis is still alive, even with Michael Jackson, people who promote their videos and publicly say, oh, they're a pimp, like Jack Doherty, for example. And then you got what's his face, the one that got into jail and prison in South Korea, I think, Johnny Somali. Johnny Somali. So I'm just like, do I really? I know Pippa's on Kick. I know Pippa's on Kick, and bless her heart for somehow keeping her sanity. Yeah, bless her heart for trying to keep her sanity. Amongst all the creepy people that are over there, even Jeremy the Quartering. Bless her soul, bless her heart. I love Pippa. I really, really do love Pippa. And she's a smart individual. She's in a platform to where there's a lot of crazy people in there. It's like to push for humanity and to push for acceptance in a world where it's like, and it's not just it's not just because of what's happening in social media. What happening in social media right now is also linking into real life. Look, here's the thing. I've said this before and I said this again. Whatever happens in real life has not much of a reflection on what's going on in social media and on the internet, okay? It really isn't. What you get out here is totally different than what you get on the internet, okay? It really is. The reality and social media are starting to become wrapped around and getting, what is it called? The colors are bleeding into reality. It's happened before multiple times. We got out of it, but I don't know if we I don't know if it's possible to get out of it. Truly, I don't know if it's possible to get out of it. Because here's the thing. During the Joe Biden administration, I do believe things got a lot worse for representation of minority groups because of what Donald Trump did in his early presidency. Joe Biden tried his damnedest to solve the issues of everybody in the United States, but unfortunately there was a bunch of landmines set up by Donald J. Trump that whenever Joe Biden stepped on that issue, it's like, okay, there's a landmine, it exploded, and it caused rifts within the American society, right? And Joe Biden tried his damnedest to put out the fires, and yet he got other people to help put out the fires, and then Joe Biden stepped on another landmine, which started another fire, and made things worse. So, and now you got Donald Trump over in office right now, who still has those landmines active right now as it is. He hasn't stepped on him. He knows the passcode of the landmines. But whatever mess he made during his first administration, he's aggravating it even further. And he's getting support from a whole bunch of different people for his illegal actions. And everybody knows that they're illegal actions. A lot of us outside who are watching this know that they're illegal. Completely illegal. Like, YouTubers and VTubers are even aware that what they're doing is completely and utterly illegal. I think the only silver lining is probably Leaflet. I don't think Asmongold realizes that everything that Donald Trump is doing is illegal. I don't think he realizes it, but I do think that Leaflet has some idea as to what Donald Trump is doing is completely illegal. I think she's aware. I do honestly think she's aware. But as we go forward, it's gonna get way worse, and we need content creators in the VTuber space. Not I don't want to humiliate Yuko EX. Honestly, I don't want to humiliate her even further, but I do think that Yuko EX is a fair starting point. Now we just need to further refine and, develop. I don't want to say the word rhetoric because it's a bit of a negative connotation, but for lack of a better term, rhetoric that would inspire American public to side with the LGBT community, and not so much give credence to like anime like High Guardian Spice, or give more credence to the negative rhetoric of minorities that the Republicans are putting out. It's a very very delicate balance, in all honesty. But I feel like I want to try to be the point of refinement, continuing on with the anti-trumpet legislation. It's going to be really difficult, but it's going to have to happen. I don't want to have to step on the landmines either, or start fires or anything of that nature. But yeah, I think nowadays the Democrats have to work really hard, and we as a collective people on the other side, who knows what the heck is going on, need to find a way to get the word out that what the right is saying in a better way of saying it, and a better way of doing it, in order to, I guess, further propagate why things are the way they are within social media, without putting on, without spewing out victim mentality rhetoric. Because I think this is why people don't support the left too much, because the left has too much victimhood rhetoric with their propagation of their ideology. The Republicans, they don't necessarily have that level of victimhood within their propagation. Mostly because the vast majority of them, they don't have, what's the mental state that it is? It's sociopathy. People in the sociopathy side, they don't have any level of empathy. There are more people who are just like, oh, show me this, show me that, blah 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 blah, all this other stuff. But the other side has, I don't exactly know what the word for is for the emotional side of things, like emotionals. I think like emotional sociopathy. I don't know. Yeah, let's just call it emotional sociopathy. It's just way too much. So the left and the Democrats need to come up with the same thing that the Republicans are doing at the same level. But they need to refine it in a way that it resides with normal Americans, not like being bullies. And I do believe with some refinement, it can happen. But my God, you guys gotta wake up your brain cells, man. It's absolutely ludicrous that you guys are not thinking of a strategy. Seriously, it's silly. It's stupid. Stop taking drugs. Stop drinking your life away. Stop it with this victimhood mentality and homelessness and kind of whining and crying behavior, and start working on it. I cannot be the only one on both YouTube and Twitch to do this on my own. Like literally, I cannot be the only one who's going to end up doing it on their own. But you know, like the song of Batista's song, I walk for miles in this pit of danger, where no one follows me. I walk alone.
I think that when we see these lies being perpetuated by Carolyn Levitt at the White House and then amplified by Elon Musk, he was questioned about that, and he just said, well, yeah, you know, some of the things that I say are going to be inaccurate. But that's not until he's already shown 46 million people, which was how many impressions he got for that condom lie, that Gaza condom lie on Twitter, before they've already seen that. And so there is that asymmetry at play where you don't see Democrats just perpetuating the lie only to then say, well, you know, I was wrong, my bad. They're content to clean up after the fact only because they know that they've already gotten what they need out of it. And again, we don't see that on our side.
Well, we don't want to turn into a bunch of liars either, but I do think that and
yeah, that's the thing. They got a lot of smart people on their side. They know how to lie. But on the Democratic side, I feel like there's too much honesty. There's like a little bit too much honesty. We need to play a little bit dirty. We need to start playing a little bit dirty. Okay? And no, I don't mean saying, oh, I'm gonna threaten your kids or something like that. I'm gonna threaten your family if you don't do this. No. If you want to play dirty, okay, you're gonna have to do some things that you never thought was even possible. Okay, that you could never even think about. I'm gonna put this out there. I want every person who wants equal rights, equal representation, equal everything. I want everybody to study what the Republicans are doing. I want everybody to study the Republicans are doing. I know you're going to say, oh, we're going to do the honest way, we're going to do the opposite of what the Republicans are doing. No. study their tactics. Study their social tactics and everything like that. Study them completely, in all honesty. Don't put your emotional victim mentality cap on. No. Get rid of that shit. Get rid of that shit. That goes bye-bye. That goes bye-bye. What you need to do, take that shit off your head. Look at what's going on. See what it is, because I guarantee you I'm seeing what it is. I've been seeing it for the past 10 freaking years. Okay, I've been seeing it for the past 10 freaking years. Okay, and it boggles my mind why other people don't even see what I'm seeing, especially on the Democratic side. You know, I'm very impressed as to why people don't see what Shoe on Head is seeing. I'm completely appalled and enthralled. Okay, Shoe on Head is a populist, which is a left-winging ideology. Hello? She supports the rights of LGBT as much as anybody else. But why isn't there anybody like Shoe on Head? Hello? Can we get some people with brain cells on my side?
And Chris and I have talked a little bit about this, that, you know, a lot of lawyers on the Senate Democrats, I'm not one, but there are a lot of people who are very precise, very responsible, and want to get all their facts straight before they start to allege something or assert something. And, you know, Chris's point to me is like, do they deserve the benefit of the doubt if they're not sharing any information with us? It'd be one thing if, like, you know, the normal course of business, you call the Office of Legislative Affairs of the other party, they give you the information, maybe you send a letter, right? And letters sound so feckless now. Yeah. Maybe you send a letter, they send you a letter back, you get the information. But lacking the information, we should probably not give them the benefit of the doubt anymore.
And first of all, you saying the word letter, I'm sure, sent chills down the spines of every single person who's watching, because it's the perfect microcosm for
you should see my text strings with my staff. I'm like, another fucking letter?
another strongly worded letter. Like, that's gonna solve it this time.
I love my staff.
Yeah, a strongly worded letter. Like, that's gonna really... Like, that's gonna solve anything. We're done with letters. And we're done with violence. Okay? That's out the door. Now I want people to start militaristically thinking things. We're talking about, not like with physical weapons or anything like that. Not like with guns, not with rifles. No, none of that shit. No. We're talking about espionage levels of thinking. Okay, we're talking about, like, oh jeez, there's a few shows out there that yeah, we're talking about, like, Breaking Bad levels. Okay, of thought process. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. When playing dirty, you gotta play the mental game. You gotta play the mental chess. Okay? And I'm already starting to do that already. I'm starting to play the freaking mental chess game already. I've already put out a video about a few days ago saying what I had to say about USAID. Whatever the Republicans are doing is totally stupid and, you know, dumbfounded. I know some of the representatives, like that blonde chick, is completely fucking lying. We all know this for sure. Because they're saying, oh, I have the proof here, I have the proof there, blah, blah, blah. Okay, why isn't it a post on social media? If there's literal proof and receipts, why aren't those receipts circulating? Oh, but this guy, Brian Tyler Cohen, he's already found out that USAID is funding Elon Musk. Literally. Elon Musk is using USAID to fund himself.
First of all, the way our government was designed is everything is going to move slower than my generation and lower wants things to move. We're a system of checks and balances. Things have to work their way through the court. The whole legislative process. The one way that we could try to stand up to Trump's blitzkrieg of illegal actions is by calling it out and rising up with our truth, with our light, with our really our willingness to unfetterly, in an unfettered manner, to call the crap out. And so that's why I'm just so urgently want folks to not wait, but to start just calling bullshit right now. Like you drew.
I'll call bullshit whenever I see bullshit. I'm just gonna be straight up with you.
If I could call bullshit from the left side, you can damn be sure I'm going to be calling bullshit from the right side.
Drew a line from starting with the January 6th pardons right away of people who beat, viciously injured, spinal injuries, skull injuries, police officers. I draw that as a consistent line that's continuing to coming through all the way to the point where deciding whether you prosecute the mayor of New York, that decision didn't come from the U.S. attorneys or other. It came from the top of the Justice Department, and we know how, in my opinion, corrupt that is. It is an upending of what we know to be the rule of law in this country. It's an upending of constitutional norms, and the only way we're going to stop that, and I have a lot of faith actually in the courts and ultimately, but these are things that are going to go on, there's decisions we made, appeals and the like. The most powerful way to stop injustice, as I see it again, especially here we are again in Black History Month, the most powerful way to stop injustice is for...
Okay, I know what he just said is kind of cringe. I know what he said, because it falls under the rhetoric of woke culture, right? Because, yeah, I get it. What he just said right now with the whole Black Lives Matter kind of like rhetoric, I know it sounds cringe because it was drilled in people's head that woke culture was bad. But let's ignore the fact that woke culture that has been promoted to be toxic from the right, which we know that it is a thing, to give a louder voice to a minor set of people, which, by the way, those people exist because of Donald J. Trump. Let's be for real. The people that you saw in the video, the clip that went viral with the blue-haired chick and the transgender dude in the red minicap, I'm telling you right now, those are the people that came out of the woodwork because of Donald Trump. So in other words, those people are Donald Trump supporters. They think or they believe that they are doing good. LGBT rights need to do this, or I have to do this, blah, 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 blah. You're going to make me do this, blah, 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 blah. They are dimwits that Trump actually put out onto the streets. And in a moronic way, they're helping Donald Trump's case. So really, reality. But here's the thing. They don't know that they're Donald Trump's people. These are the people from the insane asylums. These are homeless people. These are people who are not mentally well. These are people who came from the streets and were cleaned up, right? These are the weird people like Jeremy the Quartering, kind of conspiracy theorist types of people, right? But they don't realize it because their mind is so lost that it's like, what the frick?
For popular movements to rise up and do it.
How do you guys think about dealing with this idea of conferring goodwill onto the Republican Party in an era where we see, for example, that when Democrats had control during the CARES Act, right? This was before Joe Biden took office. And the CARES Act, all Democrats voted for the CARES Act, even though doing so would give a political win to Donald Trump. Joe Biden takes office, tries to pass the American Rescue Plan, does so only with Democratic votes. I'm not sure if he had a couple of Republican votes, but in any case, there was no reciprocation there. And we see that over and over, where when Democrats have control, they'll make concessions to pass the bipartisan infrastructure law, the bipartisan gun safety law. They will name the bills in such a way that people know it was a bipartisan venture to give some credit to Republicans. Turn around and we see a situation where, Merrick Garland on the Supreme Court, for example. We have a new rule: no appointments to the Supreme Court in an election year, except for Amy Coney Barrett when votes are quite literally being cast. And so there is a recurring theme where goodwill is conferred onto the right that isn't reciprocated onto the left. And so has that impacted how you're thinking of working with the Republicans? And I know that that means that we enter into an era of even more acrimony and less compromise and more dysfunction within the government. But does the fact that there is that asymmetry and that goodwill isn't reciprocated, does that make you think differently if we're in a position where we regain the majority, that's going to be offered up?
Well, I'm not going to permanently give up on the idea that we can find bipartisan compromise. I mean, you pointed out the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act as maybe a moment of democratic weakness that we cooperated with Republicans. Well, yeah, we passed a bill that wasn't ideal. It wasn't everything that we wanted, but since we passed that bill with some Republicans supporting it, murders have gone down in this country by 20%. That was a good thing. The question is, can you work with Republicans in the middle of a constitutional crisis when
Can you? I don't know if you can.
democracy is on the line? And right now, I think that this crisis is serious and deepening in its seriousness, that our job, number one, number two, and number three, is to save our democracy. And so that means, for me, when it comes to nominees, there might be one or two of these nominees that on their face are, kind of mainstream conservative thinkers, but I'm not going to support somebody that's going to implement a blatantly illegal policy like withholding federal funds from not-for-profits in my state that are legally due the money that Congress authorized. So no, I don't think that we should give up on the idea that once this constitutional crisis is solved, either inside Congress or from pressure outside of Congress, that we can get some things done together. But right now, the focus has to be on protecting our democracy and protecting the wholesale theft of our government by this billionaire class.
I just want to double down on that point. We lose in America if we give in to this idea that we can't find common ground in this country. And the way we've done big things from
I'm just going to put out
some props.
some drinks for us.
Okay.
This is the one thing that I think everybody needs to figure out. And it stems from the initiation of social media. On platforms like this, like YouTube and then like Twitch and stuff like that, where people could actually see like the faces of these individuals or like hear the voices of these individuals or whatnot, it is easy to call out like different mistakes that these people are going to be detrimental to human societal success. But when you have social media platforms like Instagram, like Twitter, and maybe to some extent Blue Sky, okay, where there's really no, you really can't put a face on these people. It's the same thing that a few years ago they did that experimentation with a bunch of people that in this theater audience, everybody put on a mask, right? And they shuffled everybody out, right? And so they with the mask, people feel like they are free to do whatever they want because they cannot be called out because they're not identifiable. It's the same thing that happens with like platforms like Twitter and Instagram, right? On Instagram, you create a false narrative of happiness when in reality you actually are a miserable a miserable person. And on Twitter, you have all these people just like saying, oh, you're a homophobe, or you're a transphobe, or you're this, or you're that, blah, 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 putting all these labels because they're hiding behind like an anime character or Andrew Tate icon or some shit like that. And what that does is that what it entails is that there's a growing level of mistrust within human society. And so that continues to fester over time, and now you have this thing that's bogging down into your mind. Oh, is this tweet that's hating on me from my boss, from my best friend, from the teacher that I grew up with 15 years ago? Who is it from my mom? Is it from my aunt? Is it from my grandpa? It creates this level of distrust within this society. and that is what's keeping everybody, from moving forward, essentially, because now you have this dark cloud of mistrust that's been forming over the past, what was it, 15, 20 years now, somewhere between that, because of platforms like Facebook, of platforms like Twitter, of platforms like Instagram, things that can create a false narrative, and create a false narrative without identifying who the person is. I've put out, even on my Twitter, my picture, what I'm doing. I did a face reveal. I'm doing this stuff right here that on these two platforms on YouTube. And there is no transparency. What you hear from me is simply what you get. This is my mindset, okay? And I'm telling you right now, my mindset may not be perfectly accurate or perfectly, normal, to say the least, because I've been psychologically and emotionally abused to a heavy extent. And, there's other people who have also expressed not only mental disabilities, but also social disabilities as well, because of traumatic experiences that happened a long time ago. Tectone is one example of all that. He suffers from schizophrenia because of all the trauma that he has suffered early on in his childhood. It's really disgusting and it's disturbing. And at the same time, I kind of feel bad for these people. But at the same time, am I gonna empathize with these people? Probably not. And I will admit, I'm gonna struggle to find common ground with these people. I think I will find it very struggling that people, some of these people haven't faced death 6 times, haven't been mentally or emotionally abused, like I have. Haven't, and even to a certain extent, I might not be able to be friends with somebody who's in South Africa who's seen so much more than what I have, or been through so much more at a longer state than I have. Yemen is another one country. India is another country. Indonesia is another country. Russia, even. To some extent, I think Spain. Spain might be in the same vein as those countries. Chile and Brazil, they're in the same vein, and now now the United States is falling into that trap too. They have more trauma, and I won't be able to empathize with them or become friends with them because I cannot connect with them, and I just have to accept that's gonna be a reality. And as much as I want to get to know these people, to for me to be friends with these people, it's gonna be very hard for me to connect with these people, not because social media is actively trying to create discourse within society by creating a level of what is it called, unhealthy anxiety, but it's because there are people within society who cannot empathize with one another. Tell me where in society that they have been emotionally and psychologically abused and have witnessed death 6 different times and should have been dead 6 different times. Tell me who. Tell me who. You can't. The only people that even come close are probably military personnel. But their trauma is far worse than me. I know that for sure. I know that for a fact. What about gangbangers, bro? Don't even. No. No, I'm not even close to even gangbangers. Really, I'm not. They can't empathize with one another, and they can't trust each other. That's what I think is going on, as well.
Just in case you want one.
I really appreciate you doing it.
Just in case.
All right.
Yeah, just in case.
Do.
Just in case.
I feel like we have
you
to
want some.
talk about the elephant in the room. I was told.
I just want to make sure that
I was
people
told,
have
I was told that you were a
My point again is we need to be a nation that we can come together around big ideas and big things. And I can go through the major legislation historically that we've done together as a nation. And of course, you have people that don't vote on both sides. But to Chris's point, the Bipartisan CHIPS Act, this is a big game-changing bill that we were able to do together. The biggest infrastructure investment, bigger than Eisenhower Highway Act, was the infrastructure bill that we did in a bipartisan way. That's a big thing for our country. These are huge victories, and they actually show presidential strength and congressional strength. Donald Trump is not showing strength right now. Does our government need to stop waste, fraud, and abuse? Absolutely. Are there big things we can do? Yeah, I sat with John McCain before and talked about the corruption in the military and the incredible waste that was there and how we need to change it so we can have better fighting force and more efficiently spent money. But the reality is the way Donald Trump is doing it right now is evidencing his weakness, that he can't come before the nation and put together a plan. It's not like how Clinton, who was the last person that balanced the budget, got rid of the deficit, started taking down the debt.
What was it that Donald Trump said in one of his interviews?
You said during the campaign you had concepts of a plan. Do you have an actual plan at this point for healthcare?
Yes, we have concepts of a plan that would be better.
Still just concepts? Do you have a fully developed plan?
Let me explain.
What the hell are we supposed to do with concepts of a plan? Like, what are you waffling on about, man?
Debt. And so I never want people to come away from this to say that the way we are more successful is we become more like the worst of the Republican efforts that are going on right now. That is letting somebody drag you so low that you lose who you are. The last thing I want to say, though, that doesn't mean in a moment of existential crisis that we don't fight with everything we have, using the tools and tactics that we can to stop them. There is a long history in our nation of stopping authoritarian efforts, to stopping people who want to scrap our constitutional ideals. And again, it's always come by noble people in this place that fight well, but always by everyone realizing I have agency, I have power, I have voice, and I'm going to use it in this moment that my country is calling me, where my country's very values are at stake. I'm going to not be on the sideline. I'm going to be a foot soldier for this democracy and engage, and that's what we need right now.
Sounds like the perfect place to leave off. Thank you guys for joining.
That was a good, insightful video.